We sometimes think about nature in winter as a time when nothing is happening. The leaves have fallen off most of the trees, the animals have gone underground, everything is quiet and at rest. But just like when we humans sleep, there is real power and rejuvenation in that resting period. Hello, I'm Nicole Travillas-Frabel, and this is Wildwood Teaching. And today I have gathered up a bunch of picture books about dormancy in plants and animals in winter to help children understand the importance of this period in nature and what the plants and animals are actually doing, even if we can't see it. All right. Book number 1 is Wait, Rest, Pause by Marcy Flincham Atkins. And this is a really good introduction to the idea of dormancy because it covers not just the usual, right? We think about bears as hibernating, but also right, how plants are dormant in the winter. It covers insects that we don't often think about as being dormant in the winter. And what the idea of this book is, it has alternating pages where it will show that particular plant or animal in the winter. And then on the following page, show that exact same plant or animal in the spring. But difficult to turn to these with the books. There we go. And what I would do if I were reading this book to children is I would encourage us to create a visual T-chart of plants and animals in our habitat in winter as opposed to, say, spring or summer. So, for example, we have an apple tree that I'm looking at right now. And in the winter, its branches are bare, so we could draw it in the winter, and then right next to it, draw what it's going to look like in the spring when the buds and the leaves start to develop. We could take, say, squirrels in our area, and where they are above ground on a tree in the spring, summer, and below ground in the winter. I might even take things that aren't different, right? So we have a whole bunch of spruce trees behind me here. So that spruce tree is going to look the same in the winter as it does in summer. And so we did mention insects as creatures that we don't often think about as hibernating. So this book, Not a Buzz to be Found by Linda Glazer, is all about insects and their winter adaptations. And so for some insects, that is hibernating, but it also covers adaptations like migration, right? For example, monarch butterflies are migrating to survive the winter. And so this is a good opportunity to kind of connect humans to animals and talk to the children about how we're not that different, right? We have adaptations that we also do during the winter, right? What do we do? And you can open that up to the children to discuss, right? We put on different types of clothing. We might stay inside. We might start some fires to stay warm. Right. Another book is Time to Sleep by Denise Fleming. And this one is kind of a like narrative nonfiction. So it starts with Bear kind of sniffing the air, feeling it through her nose, that it's colder, and realizing that it is time for her to get to her cave and start her winter sleep. On her way there, she sees a snail and notifies the snail that the winter is coming, who also has a way of confirming that, yes, it's true by what they are noticing in nature, and then notifying another animal on their way to preparing for winter. And so on and on as each animal prepares for winter and notifies the next animal on the line. And now children do often ask me, especially when it comes to insects, right? Where did they go? And how did they know? How did they know winter was coming, right? We humans know that winter is coming because it's a calendar date, right? We know that winter starts December 20th, December 21st, and that's how we know to get ready for winter. But this is a good introduction to the animals noticing the changes in nature and using that as their cue. And I always think that it is fun. We do this many years where we go on a winter is coming scavenger hunt. What are the changes that we are noticing in nature that are giving us a cue that winter is coming? You could even do that in kind of like the late fall, or you could do it now. What are the signs that winter is actually here? All right, this one is called Sleepy: Surprising Ways That Animals Snooze, and it is written by Jennifer Ward. And this is not per se a hibernation book, but more of that whole idea that I was talking about sleep as rejuvenation, regeneration as a very important process in life cycles. And so, for example, there's a page here about the hummingbird and how pretty much every time a hummingbird sleeps, it goes into a hibernation state in that its metabolism slows way down. Its breathing slows way down. And this is in contrast to that highly active state that a hummingbird is in when it is awake. And because hummingbirds are in such deep torpor, it can take over an hour for them to change states, for them to wake up, in essence. And so, what we do when we talk about sleep and animals is there's a little song. It's a grizzly bear song, and it goes like this. A grizzly bear, sleeping in a cave. A grizzly bear, sleeping in a cave. Please be very quiet, very, very quiet. For if you shake him, if you wake him, he'll be very mad. And we use this to talk about, right, the states in our own body, right? How we can crescendo and decrescendo with the song, and that changes our body reactions. We also do something where we get to that song where we wake the grizzly bear, and then they all pretend that they're grizzly bears and run around, and then we go back to sleep. And we mix and match the animals. So we might be owls, and we might talk about, right, where are they sleeping, when are they sleeping, right, daytime as opposed to nighttime, what are they going to do when they wake up, and we're going to act that out as well. Another one of our all-time favorite books is Over and Under the Snow by Kate Messner. Kate Messner has a number of over and under style books where she talks about what's happening above the pond, under the pond. And basically, this book follows a child on a kind of winter ski with their parent, and they talk about what the child and the parent are doing above ground, and then you can see underground what the different animals are doing at that same time. And we like to make our own book styled after Over and Under the Snow. We just take a piece of paper, fold it in half. On the top half of the paper, the children write their favorite thing to do in the snow. They draw a picture of themselves about what they're doing in the snow, and then we pick an animal again from our local habitat, and they get to choose and draw what that animal is doing at the same time under the snow. All right, we have summertime sleepers. See, dormancy isn't just for winter. When it happens in the summer, it's called estivation. And that is basically many animals escaping the heat of the summer by doing something similar, right? Slowing their bodies down, resting so that they remain cooler, and so that they can right, deal with lack of food, right? If the heat has caused food to be scarce, right? They're going to do the same thing that animals are doing in the winter when food is scarce. And now this topic, this vocabulary word, estivation, is definitely going to be unfamiliar to preschoolers, which is why it's a great idea to bring this topic to them. And in fact, this book helps me understand our gecko's behavior. We have a gecko. And it can often go through long periods of time when it's not moving and not eating, and we get a little bit nervous, right? Is it okay? It is perfectly okay. That is its estivation period. And our gecko is in the midst of a very long, healthy life. But again, when I talk about this book, this might be an opportunity now to talk about the adaptations that we humans do in the summer, right? We might have less clothing. We might have periods of rest. We might have to drink more water. Many different ways that we adapt to the changing weather. All right, this one is called Hiders Seekers, Finders Keepers. It's by Jessica Kulechian. And I was talking about those lizards slowing down, right? This book introduced an entirely new vocabulary word for me called brumation. And basically, brumation is hibernation for cold-blooded animals. So lizards don't hibernate. They don't estivate. They brumate. And kind of the main difference is that cold-blooded animals don't do a huge intake of food before they brumate, and then they also wake up frequently to drink water because it's in summer and they're doing it in hot areas of the world. And this one, I like this book because this is one where it's possible to kind of moderate how you're reading the book depending on your children's interest spans, the animals that they're familiar with, right? Because you can have a main text that's pretty brief and short and just read that main text, or you could choose to read some or all of the further explanation for each animal that's on each page. All right, last one. Right. Usually, if you're familiar with me doing these picture book roundups, usually I like to include a wordless picture book. I don't have a wordless picture book for this topic, so my sort of like off-kilter different one is Breathe Like a Bear. And this is basically a mindfulness practice book. There are 30 different breathing and mindfulness ideas for children to practice in this book. Right? And I kind of connect it as just as animals purposefully slow their heart rates, slow their breathing as an adaptation to weather, we can slow our bodies as an adaptation to our emotional registers, right? If we're frustrated, if we're angry, what can we do? We can breathe like a bear. And I think I have marked that page of the breathing like a bear. Okay. So it's illustrated. It talks the children through the steps that they're going to take to breathe like a bear. So I hope that you will spend some time talking to your preschoolers about dormancy over the winter so that they can connect to nature in the winter in the same ways that they do in, say, the more exciting seasons. And that you will use some of these books to help you out. Now, of course, this is never an exhaustive list. If you have books that you have used successfully on this topic, we would love to hear about it. Please include that in the comments here. Please connect with me on Facebook, on Instagram, through my newsletter, so that we can all learn from each other. And then I will see you here next week for another episode of Wildwood Teaching. I will see you there.